AITA for walking out after my wife mocked me, then getting hired by her boss. I am 34, just an ordinary guy working the same IT support job for 8 years. Nothing extraordinary, but it pays the bills. I met my wife Lauren, 32, in college at a time when I was supposed to be aiming for something better. I dreamed of becoming an architect, and according to my professors, I had a real talent for design. But life, well, it happens. Lauren was a highly ambitious marketing student who was already talking about climbing the corporate ladder. After graduation, she landed a junior position at Summit Marketing Partners, one of those trendy agencies with exposed brick walls and unlimited kombucha in the break room. Meanwhile, I took a temporary IT job to support us while she launched her career. Somehow, temporary turned into 8 years. I was not complaining. Well, not at the time. I thought we made a team. She always told me, once I become a senior manager, we can focus on your career. That promotion came, then the next one, and my dreams were pushed back to maybe next year. I made a decent living, but nothing compared to what she was making, and she never let me forget it. Our apartment in Chicago was filled with things she had chosen. My gaming PC was relegated to a tiny corner of the guest room she called her home office, even though she almost never used it. When I tried to hang my old architecture sketches, she told me they did not fit our modern aesthetic and replaced them with generic abstract art bought from an overpriced gallery in the Loop. So there I am, in the bathroom readjusting my tie for the 5th time, getting ready for Lauren's annual company party. Not just any party, the first since she had been promoted to client relations director. My stomach was in knots. These corporate parties always made me feel like an imposter. "Matt, are you still getting ready?" She called out from the bedroom with that little sharp tone that made me feel small. "We cannot be late. Gregory Vance will be there. The CEO, remember? I have told you 1,000 times." "I am almost done," I replied, smoothing my new suit. The $800 one I had bought so she would not give me that look. Though my husband is a fixer-upper project, look she shared with her friends when she thought I was not looking. The whole drive in our car, she coached me like I was a child. "Do not forget to mention your project management certifications if someone asks what you do. And please, be more assertive than last time. You just stood in a corner like a statue. Every remark, a little cut. Nothing serious, but it hurt. And do not talk about your Star Wars stuff. No one wants to hear your theories about those movies." The Jedi, I corrected instinctively, and immediately regretted it when I saw her roll her eyes. "Anyway, just try to look interested in marketing." For once, I nodded and promised to make her proud, as always. But deep down, something was breaking. I was exhausted from being the supporting character in the Lauren show. The event was held in a chic downtown Chicago hotel, all glass and modern art, filled with people who looked like they had never eaten fast food in their lives. I recognized a few faces, but I felt like an imposter wearing a costume in a play I had never auditioned for. Lauren quickly spotted her colleagues and pulled me along with a grip on my arm so tight that I winced. "There is Todd's group for marketing. Let me do most of the talking. You just smile and nod." At first, it went well. I smiled. I laughed at jokes I did not understand. I refilled her glass with sparkling water. Then her boss, Nathan, walked over with the CEO. I felt Lauren's fingers dig into my arm. "Your quarterly numbers were exceptional," Gregory told Lauren. "We need more of that determination. The way you handled the Miller account was brilliant." She beamed as if someone had just written her a 6-figure check. "Thank you, sir. I think women need to push boundaries in this industry. We cannot let the old boys club hold us back." She always served up this speech in front of her bosses. Meanwhile, at home, she expected me to handle certain household tasks she called man things. The conversation drifted to a company-organized team-building rock climbing retreat that Lauren had attended. "Your wife was fearless on that cliff," Nathan said. "What about you? Do you share her spirit of adventure?" Before I could even answer, Lauren let out her fake laugh. "Matt? Oh my God, he gets vertigo climbing a stepladder. I am clearly the adventurous one of the couple." A few laughs broke out. My face was burning. "There is nothing wrong with being cautious," the CEO said politely. But Lauren was not finished. "It is more than caution," she added. "Do you remember the mouse in our apartment last month?" She mimed, shivering, while the group laughed louder. He was standing on the table startled until I came home to deal with it. I took a long sip of water, wishing I could disappear. It was not even the full truth. The mouse had startled me. I had jumped. Period. And when we go camping, he refuses to sleep without an air mattress and always demands a site with full bathrooms. Not exactly an outdoorsman. She looked around. Sometimes I feel like I have an extra child instead of a husband, but he is very good with computers. She patted my arm like I was a puppy. The CEO's face changed. Almost sympathetic. Nathan cleared his throat. Actually, he started, I was just talking to Matt about his architecture background. The three-dimensional models he showed me were impressive. I had not talked to anyone about architecture. I did not even know Nathan knew my name, but I understood he was trying to save the moment, and I felt a strange respect for this man I barely knew. Lauren frowned. Architecture? He does not. Maybe you could send me some renderings. Nathan cut her off. I am thinking about remodeling my lake house. The conversation veered toward vacation homes, but the damage was done. I stood there, convinced my spirit had left my body, an empty suit. I nodded while internally, I was screaming. 8 years of supporting this woman, and she could not even offer me a minimum of respect in public. Why? So she could look more impressive to them. The worst part was knowing she would expect me to laugh it off later. Oh, come on. I was joking. You are so sensitive. I slipped away to get some fresh air, stepping out onto a large balcony where the cool evening breeze from the lake completely failed to cool the burning humiliation I felt. I stood there, staring at the city lights, and suddenly everything became very clear. The woman I had married had just used me as a prop to shine in front of her colleagues, and it was not even the first time. Years of little remarks and subtle undermining suddenly crystallized into a painful pattern I had ignored. I was not just the target of tonight's jokes. I was the designated underachiever in the narrative she had built around our relationship. It was exhausting. I turned around and saw Nathan in the doorway, 2 bottles of sparkling water in hand. He handed me one. I figured you could use this. I accepted with a nod, grateful for the drink and especially for the lack of pity in his eyes. Thanks, and thanks for the imaginary architectural hobby. He leaned against the railing next to me. My ex-wife used to do the same thing at every company event. She turned me into the punchline of all her stories. Dave cannot cook. Dave gets lost going to his mother's house. Dave cannot figure out the washing machine. He took a sip. After our divorce, I found out she had been seeing her personal trainer for 6 months. Best thing that ever happened to me. We stood in silence for a moment. Listen, he finally resumed. I do not know you well, but I recognize when someone chooses self-respect. Leaving a room is sometimes braver than trying to impress a bunch of corporate types who will have forgotten this party by Monday morning. I did not know what to say, so I just nodded. For what it is worth, he continued, I have been in this industry for 20 years. The ones who last are not the ones who build themselves up by tearing others down. That strategy always ends up backfiring on them. He swirled the water in his bottle. And strictly between us, Lauren's promotion is not as solid as she thinks. Gregory is asking questions about that famous Miller account. I looked at him, surprised. What do you mean? Nathan shook his head. Just that the numbers do not quite add up. I cannot say more, but he left his sentence hanging, then changed the subject. So, did you really study architecture? I nodded. Yes, in college. I had to drop out in my senior year when my dad got sick. The medical bills wiped out my college fund. I planned to go back, but Lauren's career took off and it never seemed like the right time. Nathan nodded thoughtfully. It is crazy how we put our dreams on hold, thinking it is only temporary. Then we wake up years later. Yeah, I murmured, my throat tight. Crazy. The balcony door opened and Lauren appeared. She looked irritated but tried to hide it under a fake smile. Ah, there you are. Everyone is wondering where you went. Her eyes darted from Nathan to me, narrowing slightly. Is everything okay? We were just getting some fresh air and having a fascinating conversation, Nathan replied before I could speak. Matt was telling me about his background in architectural design. Truly innovative perspectives. Another fictional interest, but this time it sounded less like a lifeline and more like a possibility. We should head back inside, she said, her smile unable to mask her tension. Gregory's wife was asking for you. Actually, I said, finally finding my voice. I think I am going to head home. Her smile vanished. What? You cannot leave now. We have only been here for 2 hours. I am not feeling very well, and that was not entirely a lie. My stomach had been in knots since her comments inside. "Do not be ridiculous," she hissed, stepping closer, her voice low. "This is important for my career. You can handle a few more hours. Stop being so sensitive." Nathan cleared his throat. "Maybe I should leave you too," he said, without moving an inch. "No need," I replied, setting down my bottle. I called an Uber. "It should be here in a few minutes." It was not true, but I would call one as soon as I got downstairs. "This is so typical," Lauren spat, her whisper sharp. "The one time I need you to support me, you run away because your feelings got hurt. I swear, some people are so fragile sometimes." Something shifted inside me, something calm, solid. I squared my shoulders and looked her dead in the eye. "I have supported your 3 promotions, your 2 career changes, and all your late nights at the office. I attended every event, remembered every colleague's name. And I never complained about being alone during the holidays when you had to work. I put my own dreams on hold for 8 years so you could build yours." I took a breath. "But tonight, you did not ask for my support. You used me as a prop to make yourself look more impressive." Her face flushed. "You are overreacting. They were just harmless jokes." "Oh, really?" I asked calmly. "Because from my perspective, it looked like you were telling everyone that your biggest achievement was succeeding despite being married to someone who could not keep up." Her gaze faltered, dropping to the floor. And in that moment, I saw something I had never looked for. Insecurity disguised as confidence, fear masked as ambition. "I am going home," I repeated more softly. "We will talk tomorrow." As I walked away, Nathan held out his hand. "Great to finally really talk to you, Matt. I hope you feel better." I shook his hand, surprised by his firm grip and the business card he subtly slipped me. "Call me if you want to grab coffee sometime. I mean it about the designs." The apartment was quiet when I got home. I took off my suit, that expensive suit I wore to fit into her world, and I stood in the shower until the water ran cold, washing away the humiliation of the evening. Sleep was impossible. Lying there, I relived years of little jabs, her interruptions when I talked about things I loved, her eye rolls when I suggested vacation ideas, her constant remarks about my appearance, my way of speaking, my hobbies. Like the day I had spent months building a custom gaming PC. When it was finished, she had said, "That is cute. Honey, maybe now you can focus on something productive." Or when I had shown her a sketch of our dream house, and she had replied, "It is adorable that you still think about that stuff." Morning brought no reconciliation, but it did bring clarity. Lauren had not come home. A text at 6 in the morning told me she had slept at Hannah's because she did not want to continue the argument while emotional. Translation: she was running away from the consequences. I called in sick, a rare occurrence, and spent the day in a strange limbo between anger and possibility. I pulled out my old architecture sketches, the ones Lauren had deemed not in our aesthetic, and spread them out on the dining table. They were not bad, especially the urban renewal project that had earned me a departmental award. In the afternoon, I found myself staring at Nathan's business card. After an hour of hesitation, I finally sent a text. "This is Matt from last night. I would love to grab that coffee if the offer still stands." His reply came immediately. "Glad to hear from you." 3 in the afternoon at the Daily Grind downtown. The coffee shop was chic without being pretentious. Nathan was already settled in a corner wearing jeans and a casual shirt. "Thanks for agreeing to meet me," I said as I sat down across from him. "Even though I should confess that I never actually showed you any architectural designs." He laughed. "I figured, but I did not totally invent it. Lauren told me once that you studied architecture in college. She added that it was cute that you thought you could make it in that field." That stung. I never told her it was cute when she struggled at her first 2 marketing jobs. "Yeah, well, to me it was more than cute," I said, pulling out my phone and showing him some photos of my old college projects I had taken before leaving the apartment. I was on track to land internships at good firms before life got in the way. Nathan swiped through the pictures, his eyebrows raising slightly. "These are really good." He looked up at me. "Really very good. The space management, the integration with the environment. You have real talent." The conversation flowed with surprising ease. He was not just being polite or sympathetic. He was genuinely interested in who I was. As we talked, I found myself confiding in him things I had buried for a long time. My abandoned passion for architectural design, the small business project I had shoved in a drawer when Lauren's career took priority, my growing feeling of being lost in the shadow of her ambition. So all this time, you just put your dreams aside while you supported hers? Nathan asked. I thought that was what marriage was about, I admitted. Compromise, sacrifice. I figured my turn would come someday. Compromise goes both ways, he pointed out. When has she ever sacrificed anything for your dreams? I could not answer, because the truth was, never. Why did you really invite me? I finally asked after a second coffee. Corporate loyalty dictates that you should take her side. He thought for a moment, drumming his fingers softly on the table. Corporate loyalty is overrated. Human decency? No. What I saw yesterday was not someone trying to lift up a team. It was someone pushing another person down to make herself look bigger. He paused. Plus, I recognized something in you that reminded me of myself 15 years ago. Sometimes, people just need a little nudge to remember who they are. Before we left, he made me an unexpected offer. My team is working on a development project downtown, a mixed-use building with residential and commercial spaces. Given your architecture background, would you be interested in taking a look at the early sketches? Fresh eyes can catch things we missed, and besides, it might be therapeutic. I was stunned. I do not have any professional qualifications. My experience is limited to theory. Sometimes theory is exactly what is needed. No pressure. Take a look and tell me what you think. He slid a USB drive across the table. Use a new email address to send your feedback. It is off the books. I do not need Lauren knowing I am consulting her husband. That evening, after Lauren came home with a carefully prepared excuse containing words like work stress and did not want to embarrass you, but never really admitting what she had done, I sat down at my long-neglected desk and plugged in the drive. The designs were ambitious, a bold mix of modern and historical elements to transform a neglected corner of downtown. I got lost for hours in the renderings, taking notes, sketching alternatives. For the first time in years, my mind was fully engaged. My thoughts were firing with a creative energy that had been dormant for a long time. I barely noticed Lauren when she walked in, hesitant, stopping at the threshold of the office. "What are you working on so intensely?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. I did not look up. "Just a project." She stepped closer. "A work project? Since when does IT support need architectural renderings?" I closed the laptop, feeling a new boundary rise between us. "It is personal." Her face went from confusion to worry. "Personal? What does that mean?" Her eyes darted around. "Are you talking to someone else?" The implication was obvious. In her mind, the only personal thing I could be doing was something outside our marriage. She could not even imagine that I had independent interests or ambitions. "I am exploring some possibilities," I answered vaguely, savoring, for once, being the one holding the information she wanted. She stood there for another minute waiting for me to justify myself. I said nothing. Finally, she retreated, and I realized then that something had irreversibly changed. The apartment felt different, not because she was back, but because I was no longer the same man who had left for the party the night before. I reopened the laptop and started drafting an email to Nathan, signing it, Matt, architecture consultant. The title was more ambitious than real, but for the first time in years, the gap between the two no longer felt insurmountable. 2 weeks passed in a strange new domestic rhythm. Lauren walked on eggshells, exaggerating her enthusiasm and suddenly taking an interest in my day. I remained polite and distant, spending my evenings working on the project instead of watching mindless shows next to her. The email I sent to Nathan had sparked a whole series of exchanges, and my suggestions generated genuine interest. What started as simple feedback turned into serious consulting. Several of my ideas were integrated into the revised plan. "They are implementing your courtyard concept," he texted me one morning. "The team wants to meet the mystery consultant tomorrow at 1 in the afternoon." I stared at the message, torn between excitement and terror. It was no longer just a therapeutic distraction. It was becoming real. "I am not qualified for a real meeting," I replied. His response was immediate. Half the successful people out there were not qualified either when they started. 1 in the afternoon at the office, business casual. "I will meet you in the lobby." That evening, I mentioned to Lauren that I had a lunch meeting downtown. "Oh really, with who?" She tried for a neutral tone, but the suspicion seeped through. "A potential client," I replied. Not a lie, but not the whole truth either. "A client for what?" she asked, putting down her fork. I looked up from my plate. I am exploring consulting opportunities in architectural design. Her fork hovered in the air. Since when are you interested in architecture? And what kind of consulting? You do not have any certifications. I have always been interested in architecture, I answered calmly. We talked about it when we met. I showed you my sketches. It was a brushed-off hobby. You cannot just decide overnight to call yourself a consultant. Actually, I can. I closed my laptop and stood up. Especially when people value your input. I felt her eyes follow me as I walked away, trying to figure out this new husband who had interests and ambitions outside of her career. The next morning, I dressed in business casual and clothes I had chosen, not the suit she had picked out. As I was getting ready to leave, Lauren appeared in the doorway. Who exactly are you meeting with? She demanded, dropping all pretense. A development team interested in my perspective on design, I answered, grabbing my portfolio, the one I had spent all night preparing, filled with my old college work and my new ideas for the project. That makes no sense, she insisted. You work in IT. You have always worked in IT. I worked in IT to support us while you built your career, I corrected her. But it was never my passion, and you knew that. I headed for the door. She called out, almost panicking. This is because of the party. You are trying to punish me. I paused, my hand on the doorknob. Not everything is about you, Lauren. This is about me taking back something I lost. The corporate headquarters was intimidating, 60 stories of gleaming glass and steel. I adjusted my blazer in the lobby, wondering if I had gone crazy accepting this meeting. What did I think I was doing? Playing professional in a world I did not belong in? Right on time, Nathan appeared and greeted me with a firm handshake. Ready to impress some people? The conference room held 5 people, all dressed in that subtle, expensive way that exudes serious success. My hands were sweaty when I was introduced simply as the consultant who solved our courtyard problem. Walk us through your reasoning, a gray-haired woman asked, pointing to the renderings projected on the wall. I took a deep breath and began explaining the issues I had noted in the original design. The shadow zones at certain times of day, the wind tunnel effect created by the building's orientation, the missed opportunity to add green spaces that would increase property value and tenant satisfaction. As I spoke, my voice steadied. I answered questions, sketched alternatives on the digital whiteboard, and passionately debated the merits of different materials. For 90 minutes, I forgot to be intimidated. I forgot that I had no official qualifications. I just lost myself in the pure joy of creative problem solving. When the meeting ended, the gray-haired woman, who turned out to be the firm's senior partner, walked up to me. Your perspective is refreshing. Most consultants tell us what we want to hear. You told us what we needed to know. She handed me her card. We are launching a new project in 3 months. Would you be interested in a more formal arrangement? I felt dizzy with the possibilities. I would have to think about it, of course. But do not think too long, she said with a knowing smile. Talent does not need a degree to be valuable. That evening, I was reviewing my meeting notes when Lauren came home from work earlier than usual. Something about her demeanor felt off, a strange mix of anger and anxiety, strong enough to set off all my internal alarms. How was your meeting? She asked, her voice tight. Productive, I answered cautiously. Why? Imagine my surprise, she said, dropping her bag on the counter with a thud. When Gregory called me in today to ask why my husband is suddenly consulting on the downtown project with my boss. And there it was, the moment of truth. I did not know I needed your permission to pursue professional opportunities, I said quietly. Do not play dumb, Matt. You hid this from me deliberately. Do you realize how that looks? That you cannot keep your husband in his place. Those words hit me like a slap. Is that how you see our marriage? I asked, genuinely shocked. That I am someone you have to keep in line? You know what I mean, she defended herself. It looks weird. People are talking. About what? That your husband might have talent and value outside the role of supportive spouse. That is not fair, she protested. I have always supported your interests. My interests, I repeated. Not my career, not my ambitions. My cute little hobbies that you could pat on the head like a child. She threw her hands up in exasperation. What do you want from me? I said I was sorry about the party. I had too much sparkling wine. I was trying to impress Gregory. I went too far. What more do you want? I want you to understand that this is not about the party, I explained. The party only brought to light what I had been ignoring for a long time. We built a relationship where your dreams took priority and mine were sacrificed. I accepted this arrangement so completely that I almost forgot I had dreams too. She tried to take my hand, but I took a step back. I needed space to keep my head clear. "What exactly are you doing with this project?" she asked in a smaller voice. "I am consulting on architectural elements of a downtown development project, and they have asked me to consider a more formal arrangement for future projects." Her eyes widened. "You are not qualified. You never finished your degree. Apparently, talent and ideas count more than degrees to some people." Her tone shifted again, becoming accusatory. "And Nathan arranged all this. Why would he do that?" I shrugged. Maybe he saw something in me. Maybe he just wanted to help. Or maybe he saw how I was being treated and thought I deserved better. She flinched as if I had slapped her. "So this is to punish me, to embarrass me professionally as revenge." "Not everything is about you," I repeated calmly. "I am rebuilding something I lost. It has nothing to do with revenge." Her irritation returned full force. "You lied to me for weeks by meeting with my boss. How am I supposed to interpret that?" "I did not lie. I just did not volunteer information you never asked for. When was the last time you took an interest in my day, my interests, my ambitions? Not in what you needed from me, but in who I am and what I want." She opened her mouth, then closed it, a flash of realization in her eyes. The following days were tense. Lauren vacillated between forced support and passive-aggressive comments about my career change, but something more serious was brewing. I could see it in her furious texting during dinner and her hushed phone calls in the bathroom. A week after my meeting with the design team, I received an urgent message from Nathan. "We need to talk right now, not over the phone." We met at a discreet cafe far from Lauren's office. Nathan looked grim. "Lauren is trying to sabotage you," he said without preamble. "She filed an official complaint with Human Resources saying I engaged in inappropriate professional conduct by hiring an employee's spouse without disclosure." My stomach dropped. Does she have the right to do that? Technically, there is no rule against hiring an employee's spouse as a consultant. But she is framing it as a conflict of interest and suggesting you were hired as a favor to her in exchange for the Miller file. "That is ridiculous," I said, feeling a fresh wave of betrayal. "She knows that is a lie." "I know, but she is desperate. And there is something else you need to know." He hesitated. "The Miller account numbers, the ones being questioned. Lauren has been adjusting the data to make her results look better. Nothing illegal, but clearly against company policy. Gregory was already planning to audit her work next month. So, she is trying to discredit you before that happens." "I see," I realized, "to make it look like you are the one with professional ethics issues." Nathan nodded gravely. "Exactly. What can I do?" I asked. "We need proof that your hiring was based solely on merit. Your initial email critiquing our designs, you sent it from a personal address Lauren does not know about." I nodded. "Yes, I created a new address like you advised." "Perfect. And your design suggestions predate any knowledge of the Miller account issues." "I only heard about the Miller issues today," I confirmed. Nathan seemed relieved. "That helps us a lot. But there is another problem. Lauren claims you used insider information she brought home to gain an advantage on the project." I felt nauseous. She is the only one who talks about her work at home, and only to brag. "I knew nothing about this project until you showed it to me. I believe you, but we are going to have to prove it." I thought for a moment. She keeps a personal journal. She writes in it every night, all her professional victories, her strategies. If she adjusted data, it is definitely in there. Nathan frowned. "I cannot ask you to invade your wife's privacy. It is my apartment too," I replied firmly. "And if she is trying to destroy my only chance to rebuild my career just to protect her actions, then I have the right to defend myself." That night, while Lauren was at her emergency yoga session, which I now suspected was a strategy meeting with her work allies, I found her journal hidden in the back of her underwear drawer. A pang of guilt went through me, but it vanished as soon as I started reading. Everything was there. Her deliberate adjustment of the Miller account data, her strategy to keep me focused on supporting her career by undermining my interests in architecture, and the most damning, entries from the previous week detailing her plan to discredit Nathan before he could expose her actions. She had written, "Nathan thinks he is clever using Matt against me, but I will make sure they both regret defying me. I took pictures of the incriminating pages, my hands shaking with anger and betrayal. This was no longer just about a humiliating party. It was about years of calculated suppression of my dreams to keep me as her prop. The next morning, I sent the photos to Nathan with a simple message. Do what you need to do. 2 days later, everything came to a head. Lauren came home in tears, her face swollen with anger and humiliation. How could you? She said the second she saw me. You went through my journal. You gave my personal writings to Nathan. Do you realize what you have done? I remained calm. I know exactly what I did. I defended myself against your attempts to sabotage my career, just like you have been doing for years. They suspended me, she said, her voice rising, pending a full investigation into the Miller account. My reputation is ruined. Your reputation? I asked. You mean the reputation you built by adjusting your results and pushing other people down? That reputation. She collapsed onto the couch, immediately changing tactics. Tears flowed, and she looked at me with those pleading eyes that once would have made me cave. Matt, please, you have to help me. Tell them you misunderstood. Tell them I never wanted to hurt your career. You know how important this job is to me. To you. I corrected her. It was never important to us. And you were ready to destroy my only chance to reclaim my passion just to protect your actions. I can fix this, she pleaded. I will tell everyone how proud I am of your architecture work. I will fully support your career change. We can get past this. I sat down across from her, and for the first time, I felt nothing but pity. Lauren, do you hear yourself? Even now, you only offer to support me because you need something. That is not how a partnership works. What are you saying? She whispered, fear gradually replacing the manipulation. I am saying that I am done being your supporting character. I accepted an official consulting position on the downtown development. I start next week. What about us? She asked in a small voice. There is no more us, I said quietly. I have already packed my essentials. I am going to stay with a friend until I find my own place. You cannot just leave like this, she said, panicking. We can work things out. I will go to therapy. I will do whatever it takes. I shook my head. I spent 8 years hoping you would see me as an equal partner with my own dreams. It took you facing consequences to even pretend to offer me that, and only because you needed me. That is not love, Lauren. That is just survival. Her face hardened. The mask of vulnerability vanished. Fine. Leave. But do not think this is over. I still have friends at the company. They will see right through Nathan's actions. They are not actions when they are backed up by proof, I reminded her. Your own words, Lauren, in your own handwriting. She stood up, her eyes blazing. You think this makes you a man? Sneaking behind my back, looking through my private things. You are nothing without me. Nothing. Who do you think paid for most of this apartment? Who kept us afloat when your little IT job had layoffs 3 years ago? I picked up my duffel bag, surprisingly serene in the face of her rage. We will see who I am without you. And that is exactly what terrifies you. The idea that I might succeed on my own. As I opened the door, her voice went small again. Matt, please, I love you. I stopped. A strange mix of sadness and freedom washed over me. I think you love the idea of me, the supportive husband, the one who never casts a shadow. But that guy does not exist anymore. The door closed behind me with a soft click that felt more final than a slam. 6 months have passed since I left that apartment and my old life. The downtown project is almost finished, and my courtyard design has become one of the flagship features of the development. I have been hired as a consultant on 2 new projects, and I am taking evening classes to finally finish my architecture degree. I would love to say the transition was easy, but Lauren did not go down without a fight. She tried to turn our friends against me, telling them I had abandoned her during a little bump at work. She even showed up at my new apartment once, alternating between tears and threats. But the strangest part happened 3 months after our separation when the internal investigation concluded. Lauren was fired for violating company policy on data reporting. According to Nathan, who saw the whole thing, she threw a massive fit in the lobby, screaming that everyone would regret it when she revealed the truth about the situation against her. 2 days later, I received a desperate email. Matt, I need your help. They destroyed my reputation in the industry. No one will hire me. I know I made mistakes, but I did not deserve this. Please talk to Nathan. Tell him I learned my lesson. I deserve a second chance. I am nothing without my career. Please. I did not reply. After 8 years of putting her needs before mine, I was finally focusing on my own path. Last week, a mutual friend told me that Lauren had to move back in with her parents in Ohio. Her LinkedIn now says marketing consultant, which is usually a polite synonym for unemployed. Meanwhile, the senior partner at Nathan's firm offered to sponsor an accelerated program that would allow me to finish my degree within a year. Sometimes I feel guilty about how it all ended. I never sought revenge. I only wanted respect and the chance to pursue my own dreams. Then I think back to the years of undermining remarks, the embarrassment at that party, and her willingness to destroy my chance to rebuild myself just to save herself. The guilt evaporates very quickly after that. The greatest outcome was not exposing her actions, nor watching her career collapse. It was reclaiming my own worth. That part of myself I had almost forgotten. And no matter what happens in my new career, I will never again make myself small so someone else can look bigger. Comment. Watching stories like this always reminds me how important it is to value our self-respect. I want you to know that you deserve to be treated with kindness in every relationship. Setting clear boundaries is not selfish. It is an act of self-care that protects your peace. When we choose to walk away from situations that dim our light, we open the door to real healing. Taking responsibility for our own dreams and happiness can feel scary at first, but it is completely worth it. I have learned that true strength comes from choosing peace over staying in environments that break us down. If you are going through something similar right now, please remember you are not alone. It is okay to prioritize your growth and surround yourself with people who lift you up. Every small step toward respecting yourself can lead to bigger changes in your life. Thank you for being here and reflecting on these lessons with me. Let us keep choosing better for ourselves. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.